Hi everyone, welcome to Sunya IS. In this class, we are starting the new part of your Modern Indian History series. As you know, this is 6th to 12th NCERT course, and here we are doing it topic wise. So today's topic is Civil Disobedience Movement and Round Table Conferences. So this is your lecture number 22 guys, and here you will be covering the entire history NCERT. As you know, we have already covered 21 lectures of modern India, and this is 22nd lecture. So, just wanted to inform you a point here that we just need to cover few more lectures, and then the modern Indian history will be completed. And then we can go with the world history. Definitely, we are doing something in the English channel also, for which you'll get all the links and details in the description box. So, if you have not joined the group, what you can do, go to the description box, click on the link to fill the form, and then there you will get a Telegram link. And by joining that Telegram, you will get a link of channel also, group also, English channel also, and then you will be able to get all the access of PDF, study material, daily live classes, the links related to everything. Fine. So this chapter is about civil disobedience movement and the roundtable conferences. So before I start the session, as you know, my style is to give you a brief idea, a brief introduction of today's lecture, which will help you assemble the thoughts and go through the lecture very nicely. So, first of all, what is civil disobedience movement? See, civil means civilian, common public, common man. What they were doing? They started disobeying the government. Okay, so they will not obey. They will not obey the orders of government, or they will not go according to the laws made by the British government. So that is civil disobedience, when they will not obey the law, they will not obey the government, and they are just trying to make their own things with their own way. So this movement got started with Gandhiji, of course. And why it got started? Because by the time of 1929, Nehru report was not accepted, and the declaration of Purna Swaraj happened. When the declaration of Purna Swaraj happened by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1929, they said that they will move with civil disobedience movement, because of course they never wanted to go in the round table conference also, because the idea of the conference was not to give independence for India, and it was not to decide anything, developing for the independence strategy at all. So this problem was there, and that's where the movement got started. Here we will see salt satyagraha, and we will see different similar salt satyagrahas all over the country. They did similar things like Gandhiji did in the Dandi March. One more point is about round table conferences. We had three round table conferences. So in the first conference, Congress did not attend because, of course, I told you the goal was not to give independence, and that's why Congress was not sure about joining it, and they also wanted to show their anger and resistance. But other parties and many other groups and leaders, they joined it. So this was the very first time when Indians were sitting at the equal level. But the problem was that nothing came out of the first roundtable conference. No result. Okay. Why? Because Congress was not there. Congress represented India at a very large scale. Okay. I'll not say that 100% representation was only with the Congress. No. But yes, maximum Indians, they got a voice through the Congress. So when Congress was not there, no decision came up. Then happened the second roundtable conference. Second roundtable conference was after the decision of Bhagat Singh. If you remember, Gandhiji with Irwin, he discussed about release, not release, but changing the death sentence into life imprisonment. But his demand was not accepted, and then the Gandhi Irwin Pact was signed, or the Delhi Pact was signed. So basically, in the second round table conference, Britishers wanted to, just grab the opportunity to bring the Congress leaders on the table, and just to, give them some false promises. They accepted it. So ultimately, you will see a point that civil disobedience movement was on hold for during the time of second roundtable conference, because when Congress was attending the conference with Britishers, then there is no point of leading civil disobedience with against the same government, right? And that's why there was a hold in the civil disobedience movement during second roundtable conference. But again, it failed because Gandhiji, he thought that he was very hopeful about getting some good goals achieved. He was able to sacrifice a lot, and that's why he was expecting. But he got nothing. And ultimately, in the second roundtable conference, Congress decided that their demands are not getting fulfilled, so they will, restart the civil disobedience movement again. Now they continued it with more anger, with more aggression. This time Gandhiji realized a fact that he was wrong to trust on Britishers. He could have done something else. So this realization happened, and you also see a point where many followers of Gandhiji started losing their hope uh, in the idea of non-violence, in the idea of satyagraha. People became very frustrated, and we saw many slogans against Gandhiji also, because Bhagat Singh was hanged. Especially in Punjab, many demonstrations were organized. After this, anyhow, third conference happened. But again, in the third roundtable conference, there was nothing important. No, big change was there. Basically, Britishers, they were just trying to do something, but it was nothing of use. It was just a conference, just meetings, without any results, without any betterment for India. So we will just see all these conferences, and the best part is the civil disobedience movement, which will make you very happy if you learn this topic wisely and nicely. So let's start with the introduction. As I give you a brief idea, you will understand it better. The civil disobedience movement, which is CDM, in short, we'll call it CDM. So CDM was the mass movement. Now, why it is mass movement? Can you tell me? Mass movement. So keep writing answers in the comments, because I know that today's lecture is not live, it is recorded one. But you can still chat with me, you can still answer me, I can see your comments, I can see your answers, I can talk to you. And don't worry, I'll be live on the chat box with you. So just watch and give answers. So why mass movement? Because everybody, again, peasants, artisans, women, everybody, they joined. Okay, workers were also there. So it was a mass movement, and already the base was prepared during the non-cooperation movement. Right? We have seen that people had a good idea in India that how can they lead a mass movement. So yes, it was launched by Congress after a gap of 8 years. Because if you remember, the non-cooperation movement, which was in 1922, it ended in 1922. Since 1922 to 1930, 8 years of gap is there. This is 1930, right? We are now in 1930. So there were several factors that prepared the ground for CDM, and it was starting from the withdrawal of NCM to the non-acceptance of Nehru report by British government. See, Nehru report was very easy and very much less demanding in nature. It had the point of dominion status also, but still it was not accepted, because Britishers were hopeful to delay the process of independence in India. But they were wrong this time. They had to understand a point that now Indians were quite aware. They knew about world politics, they knew about democracy and parliamentary system. So now it was very much impossible for the Britishers to make fool of Indians. Now, there was a run up of civil disobedience movement, which you need to understand, and it happened in different parts of our country, and everybody followed the Gandhian way in this time, in this strategy. So CDM, in the Calcutta session of Congress, if you remember, I told you it was in 1928, which was presided by Motilal Nehru. Here, Congress, they approved the Nehru report that yes, this is what we want, and as of now, if these demands are fulfilled, we can go very nicely with the government. So, Nehru report was approved by the Congress, But the younger elements, led by Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Satyamurthy, they demanded that the Congress they should set the goal of Purna Swaraj instead of dominion status, or complete independence instead of dominion status. So yes, a time of 1 year was given. See, you need to give time to the leaders also, because Congress leaders, they had their own ways, their own old strategies. So everybody needed some time, right? So 1 year was given to the government to agree, else CDM will start, okay, or civil disobedience movement will start. So 1 year time was given. Now, after 1 year, government gave no agreement. Government gave no good picture, nothing. So Lahore Congress session was there, which was from December 1929, and it was presided by Jawaharlal Nehru, where they started boycotting the round table conference. The first point is that they said that they will not join, they will not sit in the round table conference. Complete independence was the aim for them now, right? Purna Swaraj was declared. Congress Working Committee, it authorized to launch civil disobedience movement, including non-payment of taxes. All members of legislature, they asked to resign. And 26 January 1930, it was designated as the first independence or Swaraj Day. Okay, so this date I told you, that's why this date is very important. Even after the independence of India, we will use this date, January 26, to implement the Constitution of India. So basically, here you see these points were there in the Lahore Congress session, after which it made clear in the side of Congress leaders and the Britishers that nobody will talk about dominion status anymore. But you will be surprised to know that in the end, when Britishers will lose their hold on India, and ultimately when the ground of independence was completely prepared after Quit India movement, then you know what they did? They, instead of giving independence, they said we can give you dominion status. So then that time Britishers, they still negotiated. So why I'm telling you this is that even after seeing so many movements against them, like the round table conferences achieved no results, then a civil disobedience movement was there, Quit India movement was also there, which we will learn later. So I just want you to realize a point that Britishers were so reluctant, right? They never, used to think in a nice way, right, about India, but they were very strict about themselves. And till their end, they were trying to give dominion status instead of independence. So later they will say, okay, okay, we will give you dominion status. But then Indians said, now no need. Okay, it's fine. We don't want it. Okay, so if we talk about the political activity during 1929, Gandhi ji, he toured India, and Congress Working Committee organized Foreign Cloth Boycott Committee. Some other developments were also there, like Meerut conspiracy case happened in March, bomb explosion in Central Legislative Assembly by Bhagat Singh happened, BK Dutt was also there, right? Then minority Labour government by MacDonald came in May, and the Wedgwood Ben became the Secretary of State for India. So many political developments happened in India. Okay, so these things were there, and ultimately, due to all these points, we saw a more mature level of nationalism in India. Then Irwin Declaration came on 31st October 1929. I have already dictated you this yesterday. So it was a joint effort by the Labour government of Britain and Conservative government. Labour government, I told you, was more soft about India. They had, they were more favorable for Indians, and they were more pro Indians, like they wanted to give something to Indians and wanted to understand demands, right? So Labour government and Conservative government, they both came, and the declaration goal was to restore faith in the ultimate goal of British policy. So Irwin promised that dominion status would be unavailable for a long time. He said that we will not talk about dominion status because now we don't see this it coming future. And he promised that round table conference after the Simon Commission will be there, and it submitted its report. They wanted to do the round table conference very nicely, and they were very much hopeful that Congress will join. So these declarations came, and somehow they wanted to lure the Congress leaders also. Now here the Delhi Manifesto was there, which I told you was happening in 2nd November 1929, where some conditions were laid for attending round table conference. Congress said that if the purpose is Dominion status, then we will not come, because we have already declared complete independence is our goal. So they said that RTC purpose should not be to determine whether or not or when the Dominion status will be there to India or was to be reached, but to formulate a constitution for implementation of Dominion status. So what they wanted? They wanted a proper implementing constitution, like how the formulation will be there, because we don't want Dominion status, we want complete independence. So a gradual level of progress in the law making should be there. They wanted to have majority representation, general amnesty for political prisoners, and a policy of reconciliation was demanded, that whatever happened, whatever people who got captured, so those prisoners of wars needs to be released. So all these demands came. Now these demands were rejected by Irwin. So when Irwin rejected these demands, Congress also rejected the idea to go for round table conference. They were not ready to attend it. Now Congress did not attend. Now here something important came. Gandhiji, he gave 11 points. Okay, these 11 points came in January 1930. First was to reduce the expenditure on army and civil services by 50%, because it was giving burden to the Indian economy, right? It was spent from the Indian money, from the Indian pockets. So already there was so much of poverty in India, and this high salary should be reduced, right? So this demand came from Gandhiji. Second, he wanted to introduce total prohibition, and he also wanted to reform the criminal investigation department. Okay, so some reform in CID, criminal investigation department, was also you know demanded. So he just wanted to have these kind of ideas. He also wanted to change the Arms Act, okay, allowing popular control of issues of firearms licenses. He wanted to have a release of political prisoners, except postal reservation bill, and reduce the rupee sterling exchange ratio to 1 to 4D, which is like increasing the value of Indian money. Then protection for Indian textile, like protective tariff and coastal shipping should be there, in which, because tariff and quotas, they were heavily levied. So here Gandhiji wanted to reduce this. Reserve coastal shipping for Indian specific peasants and demands. Reduce the land revenue by 50%. Okay, so these tax reforms were also there. And the last but not the least was abolish salt tax and government salt monopoly. Basically, India is having such a big coastline. We can always make our own salt, but we were not allowed to do so. Okay, so Britishers, what they used to do, they used to make their own salt. Sometimes they used to import it in India from Liverpool, and that's why they were selling it in India on a very high price. They used to tax, they used to collect taxes on it. And see, salt is a very basic need. Salt is something which a poor person having nothing to eat can eat salt and chapati, right? Namak roti खा लेंगे, कैसे भी जी लेंगे. This is a line which is so popular in India, that if nothing will be there, we will still survive with salt and chapati. So this basically gave an idea to the Britishers that Indians, they are now very much clear about asking their demands, and they understood a point that what is needed, how it is needed, and what should be done. Okay, so all these things were there. Now, CDM, the Civil Disobedience Movement, and the Salt Satyagrah and other upsurges were there in India, because the demands were not accepted. and there was no sign, like no future sign, that Britishers were ready to do something good. Okay, so Dandi March was there. It started in March 12th to 6th April 1930, and Gandhi here he informed Viceroy of his plan of action. Like what exactly was the plan? So Gandhi informed Viceroy of his plan of action, and here Subhash Chandra Bose had compared the Salt March to Napoleon's march from Elba to Paris. In the world history, you will read about it, because Napoleon, who always used to consider himself as the modernizer of Europe, also used to talk about the same thing. Okay, so Gandhi plus his 78 followers of Sabarmati Ashram, they were to march from his headquarters in Ahmedabad through the villages of Gujarat for 240 miles. So the plan was that they will reach to a coastal town, Dandi, and there they will collect the sea salt and they'll manufacture their own salt, breaking the law and starting the civil disobedience like this. So, in this way, the first step, the journey was laid. Okay, so Gandhi's instructions was to his follower, like first is wherever possible, civil disobedience of the salt law should be started. Second point was foreign liquor, clothes shops can be picketed. And third was that we can refuse to pay taxes if we have requisite strength. Lawyers can give up practice, and police can boycott law courts by refraining from litigation. The next point was government servants can resign and obey the local leaders after Gandhi's arrest. Fine. So these points were there, and basically Gandhiji why wanted to prepare this ground about local leaders, because he knew that Britishers they will come with very heavy ideas, fines, and ultimately uh, they will imprison and capture leaders. So just Gandhiji wanted to play very safe this time, and this he said that okay, if it is feasible for you, then the government servant should resign. Okay, you can if you want, if you can bear the pain, because this is a very long journey. So Gandhiji knew that it's not always possible for everyone, and it should never be forced on someone. Okay, if it is possible, then only the person should do it. Lawyers can give up their practice if they are comfortable, but you will be very happy to know that many of the people voluntarily they resigned, they were ready to go for the civil disobedience movement, and they were ready to move accordingly. So this is very important. It shows that people really had a patriotic feeling, right? So the spread of salt law happened. Salt law disobedience, or the breaking of salt law, was happening everywhere, and Gandhi's arrest happened. Gandhi's arrest came on 4th May 1930, when he had announced that he would lead a raid on Dharsana salt works. Basically, uh, there was a plan. Always these people they used to give warning to the government that what is the next thing we are planning, what is the next we will do, what is the plan, what we want, what are the demands. They were always clear, and Gandhiji especially, he knew the law, he practiced it for a very long time. So he was well known about the facts and the realities, that what will work nicely in front of Britishers. So he already announced it that he will lead a raid on Dharsana salt works on the west coast. Now, after Gandhi's arrest, the Congress Working Committee they sanctioned non-payment of revenue in Rayatwari areas. They said that we will not pay the taxes. No Chowkidari tax campaign was there in the zamindari areas, and the violation of forest laws in the central province. Because if you remember, I told you the best of the forest areas were reserved, and they used to say that nobody will enter in these areas. So, best of the timber and forest resources were under the control of Britishers. But all these laws were broken now. See, people could not, fight a war with arms and ammunitions, right? Because first of all, Arms Act was also there, and secondly, it was not possible for Indians to keep an army, have arms and ammunitions, and fight with the European army. Firstly, it was not possible. Second, point is very important to understand, that people knew a thing, that we can't make these Britishers go out. So what we can do is we can just do our own work. If we will not follow their rules, if we will not pay them the taxes, what they will do? Maximum is they can kill us, right? This is the maximum. But they were ready to be killed, or they were ready to die for the country. Now, this kind of confidence made Britishers very fearful, that now these people, now these Indians are out of their hand. They are out of their, ways. And Britishers will have to think something. So this fear, the fear of death, see, we always have it. But when you lose the fear of death, when you lose the fear of having seen anything bad in life, and you are ready for whatever it may come, then you become very confident. Now Indians became very, very confident, and they were ready for any situation, anything, any kind of suppression, repression, any way, they could not stop. They were unstoppable. This confidence was unstoppable. Now, Satyagrah started in different places, like the way Gandhiji did in the Dandi area. Similar things happened in other coastal areas also. So, in different parts of the countries, leaders, they went to their coastal provinces, and then they made the salt by breaking the salt law. And then this kind of arrangement was done. Sometimes, even if the coastal area was not near, they made the salt, like they pretended to make it, not naturally, but pretended to make it from a lake or something, just to show that we are also supporting the Satyagraha of Gandhiji. Okay, just to show. So these kind of things were there. So Satyagraha at different places got started. Like in Tamil Nadu, C. Rajgopalachari organized a march from Tiruchirappalli to Vedranyam on Tanjore coast. It was on April 1930 to defy the salt law. Okay, now here what you need to remember, just remember the name of area and the leader. Like Tamil Nadu, C. Rajgopalachari was there. In Kerala, salt marches were organized by K. Kelapan. So it's easy to remember, K for Kerala, K for K. Kelapan, right? So Kerala and Kelapan, easy to remember, look similar. And he was a Nayar Congress leader, best known for Vaikom Satyagraha. So that's why he is important. Then Odisha. Odisha had salt satyagraha. It was successful in the coastal districts of Balasore, here Cuttack, Puri, and under the Gandhian leader Gopal Bandhu Chaudhary it happened. So here remember the name Gopal Bandhu Chaudhary in Odisha. So everywhere, the leaders, local leaders, they made the similar kind of arrangements. If we talk about Assam, in May 1930, however, a successful student strike against the Cunningham Circular came, which prohibited student political participation. And Chandra Prabha Saikani, he incited the aboriginal Kachari villages to break the forest laws, which was denied by Assam Congress leadership. So this is something which you need to remember, how, some clash between leaders were also there. Okay, so student strikes were successful here, and they were against the Cunningham Circular. But here you see that the forest law were not broken. It was denied by Assam Congress leadership. In the Peshawar area, Ghaffar Khan, who is also known as Frontier Gandhi, so he was the Badshah Khan, and Frontier Gandhi, he was known as Badshah Khan and Frontier Gandhi basically. So Ghaffar Khan, he founded the first Pushto political monthly, which was known as Pukhtun. And in this, he used to write about nationalism. He organized a volunteer brigade known as Red Shirts, who followed non-violence. So this is very important. It shows that Gandhiji had similar kind of Gandhis everywhere in the country. Then in Dharsana, there Gandhiji was planning to go, Dharsana salt, working area. There Sarojini Naidu, Imam Sahib, Manilal, Gandhi's son, they resumed the unfinished business of leading a raid on Dharsana salt work. They raided it on May 21st, 1930. Then there were people in Wadala, Bombay, Karnataka, Sanikatta Salt Works, Andhra Pradesh, Midnapur, Balasore, Puri, Kattak, all of these areas, in these all planned areas, local leaders, they enthusiastically embraced this new form of salt satyagrah. They were ready to do it, they were ready to make it, and they enjoyed doing it a lot. In Maharashtra and Karnataka, we saw that forest laws such as grazing and timber restrictions were flouted, as was the public sale of illegally obtained forest produce was also done. So people started breaking all the laws in the forest areas. Even tribals also supported. In United Province, a non-revenue campaign was launched with zamindars encouraged to refuse to pay revenue to the government, and they were ready to resist, right? So this is very similar to the Kheda. Like if you remember, Kheda Satyagraha had simply non-payment of revenue. In Manipur and Nagaland, this is very important. Remember the name Rani Gedinlui. Okay, she got released after independence, and Jawaharlal Nehru also met her. So in Manipur and Nagaland, Rani Gedunlui, she was a Naga spiritual leader, and she followed her cousin Haipu Jadonang. So Haipu Jadonang, was his cousin, her cousin. Okay, so born in what is now is known as the state of Manipur, and she raised a revolt, raised the banner of revolt against the foreign rule. At the age of 13, she was imprisoned and she got released after the independence of India. Okay, then Krishna Pillai during civil disobedience movement defended the national flag and resisted the lathi charge on Calicut beach on 11th November 1930. So this is also very very important. So all these leaders, all these areas were there, all these movements were highlighted very nicely. Now how the government response came. In July 1930, Irwin, he suggested roundtable conference. So he just wanted to make it, and they reiterated the dominion status quo, and they accepted Sapru and Jayakar's suggestion to explore the possibility of peace between Congress and government. Then in 1930, Motilal Nehru, they met Gandhiji in Yerwada jail, because he was in Yerwada jail, to discuss the settlement. And then they said, okay, we can settle down, we can have a peace, we can have a better relation, with three demands. Number one, right of succession from Britain. Like if the dominion status is coming, or if any law like this is there, then we have the right that if we want, we can have a right to of succession from Britain. We can go out, we can move out. Then complete national government with control over defense and finance should be given to India. It should be our own defense, our own army, our own financial system, and we should have a complete control. An independent tribunal to settle the Britain's financial claims, because Britishers, they say that they invested a lot in India. So they have done a lot good for India. So we just wanted to see that what exactly they did, how they looted the country. So just to discuss it, independent tribunal should be there to settle down all these areas, all these demands. So this was the government response. Now after this thing, of course these demands were not accepted, but there was a crisis between the government and the Congress. So ultimately Gandhiji, he gave some demands to the Irwin, and Irwin, after looking at it, he accepted few of the demands. So then a Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed. Gandhi-Irwin Pact, or Delhi Pact, where Gandhi agreed for immediate release of political prisoners not convicted on violence. Okay, not convicted of violence means those prisoners will be released who were not involved in any violent activity. They said that okay, we will do remission of all the fines not yet collected, we will not collect more fines, we will return all the lands not sold to the third parties yet, and the lenient treatment to those government servants who resigned during the CDM, civil disobedience movement. Right to make salt in the coastal villages for personal consumption only, not for sale, this was given. Right to do peaceful and non-aggressive picketing, like protest you can do, but it should be peaceful. Withdraw of emergency ordinance. Okay, but Irwin rejected what? Very important. Public inquiry into public expenses. Okay, so this was rejected. He wanted no inquiry on the public expenses, because of course Britishers were looting India. And second was the commutation of Bhagat Singh and his comrades to the life sentence. It was discussed that instead of the death sentence, if it could be changed to life imprisonment, it would be better. So this demand of Gandhiji was not accepted. Like these two demands were not accepted, but other demands were accepted. Other demands were going fine. Now, basically, with all these things, what happened that Gandhiji, he thought that I am getting a lot with all these points. And he knew that even if I don't sign this pact, Bhagat Singh will not be released. It's not like that if I don't sign this Gandhi Irwin Pact or if I don't go in the second roundtable conference, I will achieve any big goal or I will be able to release Bhagat Singh. He was clear that Bhagat Singh will not be able to release. And he was quite sure that Britishers were very firm on their decision. But the problem was that Gandhiji could have resisted or delayed it, right? So he did not resist, he did not delay the Delhi Pact, he signed it. That's why sometimes many of the students and Indians, they feel like Gandhiji, due to Gandhiji only Bhagat Singh was hanged. But no, it was not due to Gandhiji. Only the death sentence was not stopped. It was not in the control of Gandhiji. People had a lot of expectations. See, when you are a big leader, you have a lot of expectations. It is a very common thing. It happens, right? It is a very common thing. So yes, it was there. People, they are very innocent, and sometimes you get pain. Expectations are always painful, isn't it? Whenever you expect a lot, what you get? You get nothing. You just get the pain. And you just need to understand a point that it's very easy to expect, but very hard to fulfill. Fine. Now, just write these points, like these 2 points, what Irwin rejected. Write it down. Irwin rejected these 2 points, write it down. Public inquiry into public excesses, and commutation of Bhagat Singh to life sentence. Fine. Okay. Now let's move to the next part. Even after not getting any release instructions of Bhagat Singh, Gandhiji agreed to sign the Delhi Pact, and he said, okay, I will suspend CDM. He will say, I will not continue civil disobedience movement. And he said that I will participate in the next roundtable conference. Because unofficially, it is said that Gandhiji got many fake promises from Lord Irwin. And see, Lord Irwin and Britishers knew one thing, that whenever Bhagat Singh will be hanged from that day, it will be very hard for them to survive in India because people will be very, very angry. Already after Jallianwala Bagh massacre, we saw that Indians were aggressive against the Britishers. So Britishers had a good idea that they won't be able to use this opportunity for long. So that's why they wanted to settle thing with Congress. They wanted a backup with Congress support. That's why they planned it. But the planning, you will see, will be of no use. The pact, it paved the way for Government of India Act of 1935, which is still the base of Indian Constitution. So you see that we have the longest written constitution of India, and we have inspirations from so many other constitutions of the world. But remember a point that 70% of your Indian constitution, which you follow today, comes from Government of India Act of 1935, has its roots in this particular Government of India Act, which softened the diarchy system and allowed a greater number of Indian representatives in center legislature. Fine. So this pact, paved the way. Somehow, we will see good level of development after the Government of India Act of 1935, and more understanding and transfer of powers will be there. So yes, this system came. Now there was a Karachi Congress session which was in March 1921. So this is very very important. Why? Because this is after the sacrifice of Bhagat Singh. So it was March 1931. Here, what Congress said. Congress said that they they want to praise Bhagat Singh and other leaders, and they know the idea of revolutionary groups, but they can't, you know, compromise on their ideology because it was a mainstream political association, Indian National Congress. So they said that they are disassociated from political violence, but they admired the bravery and sacrifice of three martyrs, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, and Rajguru, of course. But they said that we want to clarify a point that we are disassociated from any political violence. We are endorsing the Gandhi Irwin Pact, and we are still reiterating the goal of Purna Swaraj. We are still on it. So Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru, they were executed 6 days before the session. It was on 29th March. Punjab Naujawan Bharat Sabha, they met Gandhiji on his way to Karachi with black flag demonstrations in protest of his failure to secure commutation of death sentence for Bhagat Singh and his comrades. And there was a resolution on FR, free speech and free speech. So this is right to form associations, right to assemble, universal adult franchise, equal rights irrespective of caste, creed, sex, neutrality of state in religious matter, free and compulsory primary education, protect the culture, language, script of minorities, linguistic minorities. So these resolution on fundamental rights were there, that Congress will talk about these things. Congress will demand about these fundamental rights. Fine. So these ideas were very much clearly defined. Now the resolution on national economic policy came, and it was substantial reduction in rent and revenue in case of landholders, exemption from rent for uneconomic holdings, control of usury, right to workers and peasants to form unions. So this resolution came on national economic policy. So it shows that economically, politically, socially, Congress was very much aware. Congress knew that what is needed for the people, for the society, for the right matter of country, and they were very very sure that this civil disobedience movement needs to be on hold, and they were hopeful that Britishers will give them a good benefit now. So with so many hopes, they went in the round table conference. So let's see how the round table conference was. As I told you, in the first round table conference, Congress was not there. That's why no result came. So the first round table conference was on November 1930. It was held in the accordance with Simon Commission's report in 1930, because Simon Commission only gave this report that there should be a round table conference. And the British King George V officially inaugurated it on 12th November 1930 at the House of Lords in London, and it was chaired by then British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald. First time British and Indians met as equals. Congress and some prominent business leaders declined to attend, but many other Indian groups attended, like Princely States, Muslim League, Justice Party, Hindu Mahasabha, and Muslim League sent Aga Khan, Maulana Muhammad Ali Jauhar, and others. Government of India represented by Narendra Nath, Bhupendra Nath Mitra, C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer, M. Ramachandra Rao. So all these people were there, and after this meeting, nothing was achieved, because it was agreed that India was to develop into a federation. Safeguards regarding defense and finance will be given, while other departments were to be transferred. So these points were discussed, but as Congress was not there, many important leaders were not there, so they could not decide. But in second roundtable conference, alone Gandhiji alone went, representing Congress, and because Gandhi signed the Gandhi Irwin Pact also, so he went there. He was hopeful. So conference convened in London, member of Indian Liberal Party such as T.V. Sapru, C.Y. Chintamani, Srinivas Sastri, they appealed Gandhiji to talk with Viceroy. The conference main task was to accomplish through two committees on federal structure and minorities. And INC nominated Gandhiji as the sole representative, so Gandhiji was alone, and A. Rangaswamy Iyengar and N.M. Malaviya were also there. Apart from Congress, there were a large number of Indian participants like the princely states, Muslim League, Hindu groups, Liberal, Justice Party, Sikh, Parsi, Indian Christians. So everybody was there. Now Gandhiji demanded immediate establishment of responsible government at the national and provincial levels, rejected the idea of separate electorate for untouchables, separate electorate or special safeguards for Muslims or other minorities were unnecessary. He said that instead of this, we can have reservations. Okay, so separate electorate were demanded by Muslims, the poor, Christian, Anglo Indians. So there was a minority pact. Like, what can we do with these marginalized sections? So Gandhiji said that it is better to have a deal in which we can give them reservation. So this is known as communal award, okay, which is about communities. So communal award was on 16th August 1932. Here British PM Ramsay MacDonald, he announced that as he announced it, so that's why it is also known as McDonnell Award. It was based on the Indian Franchisee Committee finding, which is also known as Lothian Committee. This, remember, please write it down. Based on the findings of Indian Franchisee Committee, also known as Lothian Committee. So what it did, it established the separate electorate and reserved seats for minorities, including the depressed classes, who were granted 78 reserved seats. So from some seats in Bombay, this award provided separate electorate for Muslims, Europeans, Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians, depressed classes, and even for Marathas. So you can see a point here that Britishers wanted to increase the system of divide and rule. The provision was that in the provincial legislature, seats were distributed on communal basis. Existing seats of provincial legislatures were to be doubled. Muslims wherever in minority will get more weightage, except in northwestern frontier province area, because there they were in majority. 3% seats were reserved for women in all the provinces. Depressed classes to be accorded the status of minority. Allocation of seats were to be made for laborers, landlords, traders, industrialists. So here, after seeing all this, Congress decided neither to accept it nor to reject it. Gandhiji saw that communal award was an attack on Indian unity and nationalism, but Ambedkar supported the communal award, because this is a debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar, that Gandhiji saw depressed classes as the part of Hindu system, simple society, general society. So he never wanted to discriminate, because he thought that if this separate electorate will come, or if a law will be there for depressed classes separately, then they will be treated separately every time. In future, they will lose their confidence. They will be always seen as a different person in a different view. But Ambedkar said that the law can only bring changes. Like, changing the hearts, is not easy, and it's not something which is possibly very easy to be imposed on someone. You can't force someone to think in a way. Okay, you can't change the mindset or brainwash a person who is following a thing since so many ages, like a traditional value which was there, like the untouchability and the other, uh, problems like caste discriminations which were there in India. So that's why Ambedkar wanted to have a proper law, because see, sometimes it is on the basis of research that when you make a law, and then if a fear of law is there in society, then society will follow it more nicely, correctly, and maybe in fear they will still do the right thing. If even if they don't like the law, they'll follow it. But this is not about their liking or disliking. This is about what is right and what is wrong. Maybe after following it for many, many, many years, they will make it a habit. It will be normalized. And then maybe the law will not be needed. That's why initially reservation when it came in India, it was only for few years, but it got extended and extended again and again. And this was a fear with Gandhiji. He thought that it will create a vote bank. They will be misused. They will be misjudged by the political parties. Similar things even, it is happening. There are advantages and disadvantages of everything. So when you implement a point, what you need to check is that if the disadvantages are more or if the advantages are more. If advantages are higher than disadvantages, then you can ignore the disadvantage and implement the policy. Like if you make a dam, making a dam will stop the flood, but it will also lead to rehabilitation. It will also damage a lot of property. It will capture a lot of land. It will need a lot of money. But if you look at the advantages, they are more. Like 90 advantages are there and only 10 disadvantages. So if 90% advantages you are getting, then you will need to ignore 10% disadvantage and make a dam, right? Because then this infrastructure change will be very important. It needs to be there. So sometimes these big changes are important. Maybe it can cause some damage, and it is fine that 100% nothing is perfect. No law can be perfect in the implementation. But if the advantages are more, then it should be there. So, according to Ambedkar, in the eyes of Ambedkar, the kind of suppression, the kind of caste discrimination which people faced in India since so long, it needed a law. However, Gandhiji thought that if the law will be made, then it will be legitimized that there is a separatist idea, that there is a discriminative trend, and this discrimination will never end. And that is also true. Even after so many years of independence, you see that we still have a thinking of caste system in the mind. The caste system is still there in India, and it's not easy to remove it. It is still in the minds of people, right? It is still being followed, maybe unofficially, maybe in a hidden term, but it is being followed, right? So that was the fear of Gandhiji. So both were right at their own place, but ultimately, what Gandhiji did, he signed a Pune Pact with Ambedkar. He said that, okay, you like the communal award, I don't like it. We can do what? We can make a new fresh pact. I feel that instead of giving them separate electorate, we can give them reservation. Like let's try it for few years and then we will see how it is implemented. So this Pune Pact was signed at Yerwada Central Jail in Pune by Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi. It was highlighted by the government as an amendment to the communal award, and it was abandoning the separate electorate for depressed classes. Seats were reserved, sorry, for poor, and the seats for poor was increased from 71 to 147 in provincial legislatures and 18% of total in central legislature. And they said that nobody would be discriminated against on the basis of caste or matters regarding election to the local bodies or in public service appointments. A certain sum of money from the educational grant would be allotted for the education of depressed classes in all provinces. So they discussed about uh, education also, they discussed about reservation also, and they were very sure about implementing these bills, these ideas very nicely. Okay, so this Pune Pact was signed. After which third roundtable conference happened, which is last. So INC and Gandhiji, they did not attend the third roundtable conference because they were they were not satisfied with the result of second roundtable conference, and their expectations were not fulfilled, and that's why, here we see that third roundtable conference was also a failure. Okay, neither did many Indian leaders attended it because nobody got anything. So delegates were sent by Indian states like Aga Khan, B.R. Ambedkar, Muhammad Iqbal, Begum Jahanara Shahnawaz, Sir Purushottam Das Thakur Das. They were among the other Indian representatives. And in March 1933, recommendations were published in white paper and debated in British Parliament. A joint select committee was formed to examine the recommendations and drafted a new act for India. And a committee produced a draft bill in February 1935, which became the Government of India Act of 1935. During this conference, a college student named Chaudhary Rahmat Ali proposed the name of the inclusion of Bill of Rights for citizen, but it was postponed for filmsy reason, because you know what Britishers used to do whenever they saw something which is not according to their own way, they used to make it golmal. They used to just make film series, and without saying anything they just used to abandon. The inclusion of Bill of Rights for citizen was postponed. That's why ultimately you see no results of third roundtable conference was there. Okay, so if we talk about the other facts regarding the roundtable conference, it was something which gave a development of Indian confidence. So, roundtable conferences were attended by different groups via their representatives, such as princely state, Muslim League, Sikh, Parsis, women, liberals, depressed classes, everybody. Sorry. Depressed classes were represented by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar in all the three roundtable conferences. Remember this point, write it down. Please write depressed classes were represented by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar in all the three roundtable conferences. Similarly, liberals were represented by Tej Bahadur Sapru in all the roundtable conferences. Okay. While Begum Jahan Ara Shahnawaz represented women in every roundtable conferences. This can come in prelims. Like what was the role of Begum Jahan Ara Shahnawaz, Tej Bahadur Sapru, or Bhim Rao Ambedkar. So that's why you just need to remember this. Clear? Write it down and let me know if you have any doubts. Now, after this, Gandhiji started his Harijan campaign in 1932. It was to establish a kind of mindset, a new mindset in the Indian mind. So, it established the All India Anti-Untouchability League in September 1932, and the weekly Harijan in January 1933 was started. After his release, he moved to Satyagrah Ashram in Wardha, vowing not to return to the Sabarmati Ashram until Swaraj was won. Beginning in Wardha, he conducted a Harijan tour covering 20,000 kilometers while collecting funds for his newly formed Harijan Sevak Sangh. Gandhi was attacked by orthodox and reactionary elements throughout his campaign. And of course, not everybody liked this idea of untouchability and no discrimination and other things, because it traditionally people in India followed something since so long. So it was not easy to change their mind. And see, firstly due to Bhagat Singh issue, and secondly due to this Harijan campaign, Gandhiji started losing some followers. Okay, he started gaining some haters in India, and due to this only you will see attacks and problems on Gandhiji. It happens, as I told you, we judge our leaders on the basis of their decisions, like what decisions they made. When you can see in country, when people are there, common people, they can't think in a way the leader can. They always rely on leaders, right? We always see our leaders that they are important for us. They can do something for us. So it's always a basic thing that people used to expect. And that's why you will see a very high level of expectations with Gandhiji, right? So I feel that for today we have completed enough. Tomorrow I will discuss the mass participation with Gandhiji, and then I'll discuss the debates on future strategy after civil disobedience movement, like what people were planning, how the new debate started, like what was the new thing was planned according to the Gandhiji. Okay, so we have completed it very nicely. I have made these short points and short notes to make it very easy for you to understand. But still, if you feel like not getting anything, talk to me, discuss your points, your problems, and I'll be there to answer every query. Those of you who have not joined us on Telegram, again wanted to tell you that just go and click on the description box. There is a form, fill it up, and then on Telegram, you can join me. There you can talk to your classmates also, you can upload your answers also, you can get your answers checked, and then you will get your PDF study materials also. Okay, so in this way, a regular understanding will be developed. And let me know if any new course or any new need is there. Like if you're preparing for this particular year, you must be studying. So are you facing any problem? Are you facing any doubt? Do you want us to start any new course for you? If you have any demands, please let me know. We will try to look into this matter and will create the courses accordingly for you. Fine. So thank you so much for watching, guys. See you then. Take care. Bye bye.